Media. I was a minimum wage movie theater usher that made good and became a top earner in my network marketing company. Now, after 16 plus years in the profession, I'm finally teaching myself how to leverage the internet with online marketing and social media marketing to continue to grow and expand my business. My name is Ronnie Cruz, and this is Path of the Network Marketer.
All right, welcome back to the show. It is day 61, episode 61. All right, so continuing on yesterday's topic of communication, which I kind of fell apart at the end now that I think about it. Sometimes you just get tripped up on one word. There's that one word that you're looking for, and it just runs away from you. Happens all the time with me. Anyways, so we want to talk now about. We talked yesterday about the front end of communication, and that is from the communicator standpoint, right? You conceptualize, you have the idea, your thoughts, you translate that into language in your mind, and then you share that language via whatever medium. And obviously, I think in-person communication is the most effective. The next effective, video communication, right? So that you can have as much of the nuance in communication as possible. And so, there's that string, right, from the originator to the receiver. There's that gap, and how you receive, how that communication is transmitted. There's so much room again for dissonance in just the medium of communication. Again, like the in-person is I think the most effective, because you can get all the nuance, both verbal and nonverbal cues. Video obviously works as well, and there's limitations with lag time and all that stuff, and in a case like mine, when I live out in the middle of nowhere, sometimes our internet just goes out, right? Or it's super slow and it's lagging. Anyways, those kinds of things, and then of course like you have text and things like that, which that can go all kinds of wrong because there's no subtext to it, right? There's no nuance in text, and oftentimes a lot of discord and disagreements occur because people communicate on text and don't take the trouble to call. So that's the transference of communication, right? That's the broadcasting of the communication. From the receiver's end, again, if they're reading text, then if you send a text to somebody, the receiver will read that text and have their own context. They'll apply or assign their own context to the message that you sent, because there's no other context. It's just words on a screen or whatever it happens to be, right? So I think, again, I think I touched on this yesterday. That's why the literature that has stood the test of time, yes, it's largely we have to assign that context, but if it's communicated well enough, there's kind of this, we all understand things with a universal context. Hard to do unless you're Shakespeare, or unless you spend, half an hour writing 3 lines of text, right? And even then, it could still go awry, depending on how the receiver happens to be feeling that day, depending on the mood that they happen to be. So there's that transference, or how the broadcast of the communication. There's so much that could go wrong there, and it is really because the individual, the receiver, has to receive the communication. They have to see all the language or hear the language in whatever form they're trying to get, and then in their mind, again, the mastery of whatever the language is. I mean, if there's differences in primary language of individuals communicating, that can go awry as well. If they're speaking in both the same language as their primary language, it still can go awry. There's lots of room, because it depends on the receiver's mastery of that particular language. The receiver would have to receive the communication, and then take that language and in their mind, this is what happens. It happens very quickly, obviously, but what happens is that they ingest that language in their mind. It has to translate the language. So again, really, really dependent on their mastery of and use of that language. It has to be translated as best as they know how into concept and thought. And so it's like, it's one of those things. There was that game in elementary school. I guess I might be dating myself. I don't know if kids still play this, but you all sit in a circle. You start with one person. You whisper in the ear of the person to the right of you, and then that person whispers what they thought they heard, and then they pass it on to the person next to them and next to them. By the time the message gets back to the original person, it's a completely different message. Now, I know as kids, sometimes we just change it up because it's hilarious. But it is true, if you try to do it accurately and try to follow it without messing around and playing jokes, you will actually get a completely different message, because what somebody says versus what somebody hears and then it has to interpret, it can be wildly different things, right? Wildly different things. And so again, I know it's easy to fall into letting our smart devices do as much of the work as possible. But we especially as network marketers, but just human beings in general, I think we've fallen into lazy thinking. I said it yesterday, lazy thinking, and therefore lazy communication. And hopefully I've demonstrated how quickly and easily, even with two master communicators, with a mastery of a similar, with a mastery of the same language, even with two individuals that are at that level, there's still a lot of room for dissonance. There's still a lot of room for things to go wrong, let alone two people with different abilities and different masteries of the specific language, let alone with two individuals that speak natively two different languages. And then let alone the medium in which people are communicating. Two people are communicating, whether it's via smart device, via text or messaging, or in person, right? There's so much room for error. There's high fidelity. No, there's low fidelity. Yeah, there's low fidelity, right? There's really a lot of room for error in the process of communication. So I think, we as humans really got to work harder to master communication, and I guess knowing that there is a high level of error in interpretation and in communication, the next step is as a receiver of communication, as the listener, we have to be willing to also accept the fact that maybe we didn't understand something the way the originator of the message wanted us to understand it, right? Let's also let go of the need to be right about what you heard, because that's just your interpretation of what you heard. I mean, again, that's another kind of side effect of the internet. I think I talked about that a few episodes ago. I'm really bashing the internet right now, and here you guys are listening to me via the internet. I think. Well, again, it has the potential, because it's such a powerful tool. The internet and smart devices, it's such a powerful tool. It has the potential to really kind of be a crutch for us, because it's so easy to be a crutch, right? And if we're using crutches, we just become weaker at the thing that we're doing. And largely the internet is a medium of communication, right? A medium of communication. So let's not let the internet turn us into lazy thinkers, and then therefore let's not let the internet turn us into lazy communicators, because we see every day now, I think, examples of our inability now to communicate because of where all these things that I've laid out in the last two episodes, every area of where that can go wrong. Right. So, I mean, from a network marketing standpoint, be impeccable with your words, but also really let go of your concreteness in what you think you heard, your interpretation of what you think you heard, right? Be fluid with that. Be fluid with your understanding of what somebody is communicating to you, because it may not be what you understood it to be. All right, so that's it. Hopefully this kind of, I know it's quick. It's hard to do a dissertation on communication in two episodes that are both under 10 minutes. But if you guys have any questions about communication, please reach out to me, because it's something that I really consciously try to work on, especially for this show. I know sometimes, I mean, it's never always going to be a banger every episode, right? It's not going to be a greatest hits every time. But I do work hard. I do work hard to make sure that I communicate well. And actually, I work harder to make sure that I understand as accurately and completely as possible. So that's it. That's my message for today. Tune in tomorrow for a fresh new episode. So until then, be well, be safe. We'll see you in the next episode.